Now, back in Sutherland Springs, we're hearing about the many acts of heroism at the First Baptist Church from those who survived and from those who, of course, succumbed. By now, you've heard about Stephen Willeford, the plumber who stopped the shooting by engaging with the killer with a gun of his own. And tonight, we're learning more about another person, Joann Ward. This mother of four died in a heroic attempt to shield her own children from the killer. Joining us now from Sutherland Springs is a dear friend of this heroic woman, and she's the family's spokesperson at a very difficult time, Vonda Smith, and also Texas's Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, who spoke at length with the hero, Mr. Willeford, tonight. Both of you, it is good to see you both under such difficult circumstances. Vonda, I want to start with you. I had a chance to talk to you briefly. You just happened to be listening to my radio show this morning, and you called in because you had just spent time with Joann Ward's daughter, 9 years old,
right,
who had been in that church. Tell us what she told you.
The first thing she told me was that the reason that she didn't get shot like everybody else was because her mama threw her on the ground and told her to hide. And she did. And she said, I didn't get shot because I was hiding.
And she
proceeded.
Was minor injury, correct? And yet
she
two
had
of
none.
her siblings. She had none. Two of her siblings.
None.
Died. Correct.
She wasn't injured. She could have been. She says that a bullet went right by her face and knocked off her glasses, and she was not even scathed. So as soon as Joann threw her on the ground, she stayed hiding. And I'm sorry, what was your next question?
And two of her siblings died in this horrific attack.
Two of her siblings died, yeah. Joann, as soon as she threw her on the ground, she scooped up her other three that were sitting next to her in a pew. Ryland, who's 5, and Brooke, who is 5, and Emily, who's 7. And she immediately covered them with her body. And that's exactly how Rihanna, described it. She just said she was on top of them. And I guess it all happened so fast, I assume. But
the mother,
as we know, the shooter.
This is the mother's ultimate sacrifice. Dan, as Lieutenant Governor of Texas, you've presided over natural disaster in the last few months, and now spending time tonight with Stephen Willeford, the hero in all of this. Mother, Joann Ward, who is deceased, was killed. Stephen survived this, but he engaged the killer. Tell us what he told you tonight.
Yes. I had an extraordinary hour with him and a pastor earlier this evening, and I asked Stephen permission of what to say on his behalf, and he said, tell Laura and tell the country, tell the world I'm not a hero. I'm a victim. He said, I lost my friends. I lost people in my community. He doesn't want to be treated like a hero, Laura. He just reacted. He said God gave him great presence of mind and calmness as he walked out that door facing the shooter. He said he'd like to go to the hospital. As I did later tonight, I went to the hospital to visit some of those who are wounded and have lost others. And he said, I'd like to go to the hospital with you, but I just can't right now. He's a Christian, most of all, he said. Dan, tell everyone I'm a Christian, and I'm part of this faith community that is going to stand strong. He's a humble man. He's a hero to all of us, but to himself, he's another victim, and that's how he wants to be seen.
Dan, is there any doubt in your mind, after spending time with him tonight, as distraught as he is, and I want to hear from both of you on this, that were he not the type of man he is, I know he's humble, he doesn't want any credit, but President Trump was right. We would have had a lot more carnage. This man was hell-bent on shooting up whatever he could find, it looked like.
I said to him, Laura, I said, Stephen, I know you don't want to be a hero, but understand that your reaction probably saved many other lives. There would have been a police shootout, for example, that police officers could have been wounded or killed. They drove by another church in the chase. The gunman could have stopped at that church, because obviously this was more than just domestic violence. For me, Laura, this was just another attack on people of faith in this world. Whether you're Jews or Muslims or Christians today, people of faith are under attack. And so there's no question in my mind that Stephen saved the lives of countless others, and is still wrestling with this. He's not getting a lot of sleep, and he's still working through this. But there'll be a time that he'll tell his story in detail. But now he just wants to be known as a Christian and a victim.
Wow. And to think, Vonda, about how much our society focuses on celebrity and what you have and what you're wearing and where you went to school, all of that. And at a time like this, you see a mother's love for her children. I have 3 children, and I got it down on my knees tonight, and I prayed with my children for the people of Texas again. I mean, and my kids don't really understand it. They're little, but I was crying myself, thinking of her ultimate sacrifice. Are you surprised, knowing Joan as you do, that she did this instinctively for her children?
Joann always had her children at the top of her mind, her ideas, her thoughts, everything. When we would go to lunch, even with Joann sitting there with her children, we couldn't carry on a normal conversation with her because she would be interrupted by her children, not because they were misbehaved, they were perfectly behaved. But if they needed anything, it was the drop of a hat, it was about her children. And that's Joann's heart. It was always giving her children first place and her family. And for her to do this, she always told me, even, and it's the thing that you hear sometimes parents say, but you never think they'll have to. She said, I would die for my children. And she ended up having to do that in the very end. And that does not surprise any of us in this community that knows her, because she loved them so. And she gave it up for them, ultimately.
Laura?
Dan, Dan, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to share something with you when I went to the hospital tonight. This faith that we're seeing, this faith-based community, is unbelievable. And I went to visit a lady. The names have not been released, so I won't release her name. But she had been shot multiple times. Her granddaughter was the floor above her in critical condition. Her husband was killed. This is just unimaginable. I went and visited another lady who today was just, for the first time, I was maybe the first person she had talked to. And she said, tell me, did they all die? I wasn't ready for that. But the lady I had visited previously had said to me, I lost 80% of my friends. I lost my husband. My granddaughter's in critical condition. But a church family went to heaven. An entire church family went to heaven together. And we will be together with them again. And that's what I shared with the other lady when she said, did they all die? And I said, no. But a church family went together to heaven to meet with the Lord. Laura, you and I have known each other a long time as fellow Christians. I've never seen a statement of faith like we have seen. A pastor said earlier to me just a few minutes ago, Dan, a Lone Star welcomed Jesus Christ into this world, and a Lone Star state is showing that faith is stronger than evil and hate. And
Joann,
it's an amazing thing that's happening in this little town.
Joann, I want to say, you reached out to Joann Ward a few years ago. She was having a really tough time. You helped bring her to Christianity. Ironically, she goes to and connects with this church, and she ends up dying there. Now, a lot of the atheists and a lot of the cynics will say, see, the faith killed her. She got close to God, and look at what happened to her. There is no God. How would you respond to that?
Oh. I don't even know what to say to that. I just know that this woman's faith was so strong. I may not have brought her to Christianity. I know that her faith was wavering and her faith strengthened over the 3 years I've known her. And she did end up in church, and that is where she died. And the thing that I know that Joann would want people to know is that live for Christ. No matter what. She was dragging people to church. She was begging her best friend Cody to go to Sunday school with her. That was her heart. And no, evil is here, and that is not God's plan. God's plan is not for evil, it's for good. And if we would turn to Him, He's got an ultimate good for us in store, and it may not be here on this earth, but it'll end up that way. And that's the end of the story, because we know the end of the book.
Lieutenant Governor Patrick and Vonda, thank you for sharing this incredibly difficult moment with us. But I think we need to confront evil, and we need to call it out. We need to stand for what is right. And you helped do that for us tonight. Thank you, both.
Thank you.